Yeah, I was just going to say that David Menzies' report with Afghan immigrants are a good sign of they don't want people speaking like that about the Taliban, and that there isn't a cultural norm where we're calling people who've committed terrorist acts and ruined a country for the better part of 2 decades our brothers. Nobody agreed with that at the protests that they had. Nobody else was saying that, I think, except for, liberal headquarters. It was a really badly handled gaffe, and she could have apologized. They could have went a different route with it. She could have said she had a slip of the mind and she didn't mean it at all. But no, they had to go with, no, we meant to say it, and this is how it is, you guys. Believe us.
Yeah, she had said it before, and she was reading from prepared notes, so obviously that was some, I don't think she's ever written a word that of her own that she said. We got Andrew Chapados. Let's bring him in. Andrew Chapados, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Ezra? How are you, Sheila?
Where are you at? Are you at home?
I'm at home. I got home late from voting. There was a lovely 40-minute lineup of masked individuals waiting for me to vote there. No trouble, though, voting maskless, so it was a good federal policy worked, I guess, for once, even though it might not work much longer after this election. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, that may be your last time voting at all. They may come up with, because you're a rebel, so you can't vote. I don't know your vaccine status. I don't ask, but you probably can't vote because of that. You don't have the mask, and you're a bloody white male. So I don't think
the worst.
Yeah, so you're a rebel, white male rebel, no mask. I don't know if you're vaxxed. How are you even not deported? And I don't know where you would be deported to, but deport you somewhere.
Well, Ezra, I'm thinking about now is the time more than ever to start Rebel News Texas, I think. I'm volunteering to go down there. And I just want to give a shout out to we're over 25,000 people watching right now on Rumble and YouTube. I don't know if we've ever had 25,000 people watching at once, but I think we are the #1 source for actual news, actual opinions in Canada. I think we've shown this with all of our hard work. We've got David Menzies, Mocha and Alexa, Drea, everybody out in all these places. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but I just think it's amazing and crazy how many people are turning to us now. Because where else are they going to turn? I have to ask. In times like this, people still will email us about cover this person, cover that person. But as I look back in the last election season, I think we just did a great job.
Well, listen, credit to you also. Not only has your show, Andrew says, really, you're getting some great guests. And you really put in the effort to recruit the talent. So I want to compliment you on that and say you've really built up a franchise. And I don't know if people know this, but you also are in charge of handling challenges and issues from our broader community, people whose subscription doesn't work or people who are having some problems. So although your laconic sense of humor might point people in one way, you're actually a diplomat in dealing with our many supporters. So I thank you for that. Now, I want to ask you a question about, to me, one of the surprises tonight. I suppose I self-selected the polls that I liked, and maybe we all do that. So I saw the polls that put the People's Party at 10 and 11%, and I just sort of thought that's going to happen. Instead of saying, all right, only some polls show that, and they're the polls. Oh, I hear in my ear that Maxime Bernier is about to speak, so we're going to break to that in a second. My point was, Andrew, that the PPC is at 5%, not the 10%. I thought. Now, that number will likely grow as we move west. But to me, I had sort of daydreamed, wouldn't it be something if they got 10%? Oh, we have the feed from Saskatchewan, so hold your thoughts for a second, Andrew. We're going to go live to Saskatchewan.
Ideological revolution that we are starting now. Today, over 1 million Canadians said they've had enough of this COVID hysteria, enough of the flattening our rights and freedoms. Enough of the massive spending, deficit, and government overreaching. Enough of the lies of establishment politicians. Like me, they are mad. They are mad. They want to have their normal lives back. They don't want the tyrannical Chinese model that you admire, Mr. Prime Minister. They don't want that. Les autres, yeah, we want freedom and we will have freedom.
The other parties are all in favor of lockdowns, of vaccine passports, and segregation. The other parties are all in favor of a bigger government that increase the debt every day, that control your lives, and that limit your freedom of expression. During the last 19 months, it has been quite clear that our rights and freedoms are threatened if we do nothing to stop this authoritarian drift. We can say goodbye to our way of life. The People's Party of Canada is now the only true opposition party in Canada. We will continue to fight for our freedoms outside of Parliament, in the street, in order to influence public opinion.
The other parties will fight, and that's why today the People's Party has become Canada's only real opposition party in Ottawa. The only party that's opposed to all this nonsense that is destroying our society, our economy, and our country. If we had a proportional voting system, we would have elected about 20 MPs today. Unfortunately, we won't be able to carry on this fight in Parliament, but we will continue this battle to unite Canadians under the freedom umbrella. Canadians who oppose the rise of tyranny and authoritarian government need a voice. We are going to be that voice.
All right, listening to some of what the People's Party of Canada leader Max Bernier has to say to supporters.
Thanks, Justin. Credit to CPAC for their video feed. I think he's right that they don't have a seat. He didn't place well in Beauce, Quebec. I think his geographical center is the West. But I do believe that he has started something. I would describe the PPC as a movement more than a party. It is a party, yes, but it's an interesting movement, an interesting coalition of people. I don't think it's easy to denounce it as white supremacists, which the mainstream media might have, because there's so many interesting candidates, including two Sikh sisters in one. They're just interesting counterfactuals that I don't think that cuts ice. There's a lot of new immigrants there who love freedom. There's a lot of people, traditionally you would call them lefties, they're sort of flower child, sort of Age of Aquarius type, who don't like big pharma, don't like taking too much medicine, natural health type folks. It's an interesting combination. People were making fun of Maxime Bernier's purple shirts. I said, no, that's half the charm. That he's not wearing a blue jacket, red tie, white shirt, rabat, and it's sort of the eclectic dissident party. It's the alternative party in the best sense of that word, but it's more than a party, it is a movement. And I believe he has started it. And I'm glad he's going to continue it. What do you think, Andrew?
I had a few problems with his speech. As much as I agree with Maxime Bernier, I'm hoping he meant 100,000 when he said over 1 million people voting. I'm not sure what he's talking about there. And I think he was making an argument for the popular vote there, which I don't entirely understand. He said if we were in a more fair electoral college, essentially, is what I think he was trying to say, or a fairer voter system, they'd have about 20
proportional
seats.
representation. And listen, that's what all small parties say. That's what the NDP, the Greens say. And I can see why he would say that, because he's going to get more votes, twice as many votes as the Greens, but not as many seats of them. And well, I mean, it's what happened to Kim Campbell in 1993. She got, I don't know.
It's happening right now in the West as I look at the numbers. So the Liberals and the Conservatives are both at 33.7% of the vote. They're separated by about 500 votes nationwide. But the Liberals are leading. The Liberals are leading or elected in 155 seats, and the Conservatives are leading or elected in 121. That is what Maxime Bernier is talking about.
You're right. You know, it's stunning how close the Liberals and the Conservative vote. Like they're literally within a tenth of a percent or 0.2% of each other, and yet because of what they call
the Conservatives just popped ahead. They're at 33.8% of the vote.
Yeah.
Liberals are 33.6, and again, 30 seats separating the two.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We've been looking at the seats bouncing around all night. At this point, the Liberal and Conservatives are basically exactly where they were. The New Democrats seem to have picked up a few. The Blocs lost a few. The Greens lost one.
Who the hell's the other? Oh, that was Independent, maybe?
Yeah. So
other.
And I heard that Mariam Monsef is trailing.
Please.
And I'm going to zoom in and take a look at that, because you'll recall that she was the immigration fraud who claimed she was born in Afghanistan when in fact she was from Iran. That was only discovered by Bob Fife, who's done some great journalism. You got to give Fife credit for that.
Yeah.
Let me look there, because
she is her idiocy is only equaled by, I think, Seamus O'Regan.
Yeah.
I'll be kind of sad to see her go.
Now,
you know what the scariest part about this might be is that social media manager Yankee Pollock's predictions might have come true tonight.
And remind me what that was.
That was no seats for the People's Party. He said, I'm going to live and die by that claim. I'm going to die on that hill, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It's not that he opposes the People's Party. It's just that's our system. I'm looking right now at Peterborough, Kawartha, where the Conservative, Michelle Ferrari, is at 42%. Mariam Monsef is at 33%. Can we get the Taliban brothers clip, please? Thank you very much. Monsef trailing by more than 2,000 votes, and almost exactly half the votes are in. I have watched enough elections to know that if you've got half the votes in and you're 10 points behind, unless there's some real jiggery-pokery, you're lost. And I wonder if that people were just sick of the Liberals, if they were sick of Mariam Monsef, if that Taliban our brothers thing just blew up. Here's Mariam Monsef, who's actually from Iran, lied about being from Afghanistan. And by the way, she was planning to go back to Afghanistan, and I'm glad she didn't, because she'd be dead now, God forbid. And she was going to run for office in Afghanistan. She's a real carpetbagger who was looking for an opportunity, and someone said, well, run in Canada. Like, she really was going to go back there and be part of this huge wave of foreign money and foreign, like, she just thought, I'm going to go seek my fortune. She told this to a local newspaper. She said that she had given up her lease, sold her furniture, and was going to go back to Afghanistan to run there. And then someone in the Liberals talked her out of that. Like, she had sold her furniture. That's how out the door she was to Afghanistan. Gerald Butt said, no, run in Peterborough. She said, okay. I mean, I said I was from Afghanistan. I'm actually from Iran. I was going to Afghanistan. I'll be, like, she's just say anything, do anything.
She's dumb.
And look at this vacuous Taliban lover. Look at this clip.
I want to take this opportunity to speak to our brothers, the Taliban. We call on you to ensure the safe and secure passage of any individual in Afghanistan out of the country.
You know, the excuses made for her were atrocious. The Liberals said, oh, she was communicating to the Taliban in a way she thought would convince them. Yeah, I don't think the Taliban are listening to a...
CPAC. They're not watching CPAC.
They're not watching CPAC in English for an uncovered woman. The Taliban don't listen to uncovered Western women in English on CPAC. They really don't listen to anyone in Canada right now. The excuses made for her were atrocious. I don't know if that was the cause of her undoing, but that is, to me, so far, the win of the night. And I bet you, well, she can't go back to Afghanistan now, and I wouldn't want her to. She would be killed if she went there. But what an awful... You said that she was the dumbest cabinet minister other than Seamus O'Regan, or are we talking about Talib Nur Mohammed or someone else? She really is dumb as a bag of hammers, and lucky for the people of Peterborough, they appear to be liberated from her, so that's some good news tonight.
If you look at David Menzies' report...
No, I was just going to say, could you imagine shaking off the Taliban for 20 years and then Mariam Monsef comes back to Afghanistan to represent you? Like, those people have been through enough. I'm glad she stayed in Peterborough.
Yeah, I was just going to say that David Menzies' report with Afghan immigrants are a good sign of they don't want people speaking like that about the Taliban, and that there isn't a cultural norm where we're calling people who've committed terrorist acts and ruined a country for the better part of 2 decades our brothers. Nobody agreed with that at the protests that they had. Nobody else was saying that, I think, except for, Liberal headquarters. It was a really badly handled gaffe, and she could have apologized. They could have went a different route with it. She could have said she had a slip of the mind and she didn't mean it at all. But no, they had to go with, no, we meant to say it, and this is how it is, you guys. Believe us. Yeah, she had said it before, and she was reading from prepared notes, so obviously that was some... I don't think she's ever written a word that of her own that she said. I'm looking at the map in the Greater Toronto Area, which is usually accompanied by the adjective the vote-rich Greater Toronto Area, and it's true. That the Greater Toronto Area has more seats than most provinces. And other than the Walmart lobbyist in Thornhill, who leads by, I think she's going to win because almost half the votes are in and she's leading by 10%. So I think the Walmart lobbyist is going to win in Thornhill. But other than that, it's all Liberal. It's just all Liberal in the Greater Toronto Area. The closest there's no New Democrats winning in there either that I can see. You have to go to Hamilton to see a New Democrat running. And, once you get north a bit, you're going to see some Conservatives. It looks, funny enough, that there's a Green vote in Kitchener Centre. Mike Morris, first place Green, second place Tories, New Democrats in third. That's where Raj Saini, who, if I'm not mistaken, was the Liberal accused of sexual harassment of staff. Yeah. So that would have most likely gone to the Liberals. It went to the Greens. Now, I'm speaking in the past tense. Only about 30% of the votes are in. But it's heartening to see that sexual harasser come in fourth. Justin Trudeau doesn't care about sexual harassment. I mean, it's clear. But it's really reassuring to me that Canadians do. That makes me feel good to see that sexual harassment. And by the way, it was Liberal staff who accused him of sexually harassing. So, the fact that Trudeau ignored them just shows what kind of a corporate culture he's creating.
I'm watching Kerry Diott's riding, by the way, and he's down 560 votes behind the New Democrat. 546 votes. And the People's Party is going to steal that riding from the Conservatives in that they're going to deliver it to the New Democrat. The Thomas Maddy, the People's Party candidate, it has 600 votes. So
Interesting.
There it is. Well, there's Aaron O'Toole costing, I said it was the People's Party, but it's Aaron O'Toole that cost Kerry Diott, longtime good conservative, that riding.
Yeah, you know what? You can demonize PPC voters, which Aaron O'Toole has done in a number of ways, and then on the eve of the election say, hey guys, vote for me, don't split. But if you spent the last 12 months demonizing them, I'm not sure how eager they are. And it's not even the personal demonization. If you literally haven't said a word against lockdowns, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, these people are policy voters. They weren't Aaron O'Toole's property. I think, you know what? I've covered protesters for more than 20 years. One of my favorite journalistic assignments ever was to go to Occupy Toronto, the knockoff, the branch plan of the American Occupy Wall Street. And to go tent by tent, they didn't know why they were there. There were a lot of hobos there for free food and drugs. They told me that. And sex. They told me that. I went
they did. Tent. Yeah.
It was one of my favorite reports I did back at the old Sun News. I've been to so many oil protests, mining protests, and you ask the protesters, why are you here? And they don't say anything. They're not allowed to say anything. They say something dumb. They say, talk to her, she knows. They're clueless.
Form of electoral reform.
But you go to a freedom protest, an anti-lockdown protest, and you ask people, why are you here? Well, get ready for a half-hour dissertation. Get ready for it to be cited 10 medical studies. Get ready to be told a lot of details. The difference between these protests of the last year and a half, is that people have deeply thought about it because it's socially hard to do these protests, whereas, climate extinction rebellion, Greta protests are just, cool, and the wee Zuckerberg, Trudeau kids, we're all doing it. You have never met more thoughtful people than these dissidents, and so a PPC voter is not wooed back to the Conservative Party because Aaron O'Toole sends them an 11th hour email saying, hey guys, you're voting for Trudeau. They don't care, Trudeau, O'Toole, Bernier, they're policy people first and foremost. Last word to you, Andrew, before we say goodbye to you for a while.
Thanks, Ezra. Well, I just want to think about where do we go from here. You spoke a lot about earlier about keep moving forward, keep pressing on, and I think that's what people need to do if they're, traditionally a conservative voter. Maybe they thought about PPC this time, or maybe they did vote for them, or maybe they're leaning off of the Liberals. I think people need to ask more of the Conservatives. A lot of what we've seen in this election run-up was, the Conservatives, as you mentioned, brushing people to the side. We see Mr. Corey Hahn, who's a wonderful individual, pushing away David Menzies, pushing away our reporters, not literally, of course. But I think they need to legitimately take a look at themselves in the mirror, the Conservative Party, and ask, why did we lose? I don't think they did that very much since last time, at least in this last stretch of things, where they didn't come out against lockdowns. They didn't come out against vaccine passports. They ought to ask themselves why we lost some of our key supporters, unless that was on purpose, unless this is the direction they really want to go to. So moving forward, I hope we can actually find a core part of the Conservative Party that really is for freedom of speech, freedom of choice, and everything that you would think maybe before this year that they would be standing for, but turned out that they didn't. And shout out to everybody. I can't stop saying this, but over 25,000 people watching.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. And thanks to everyone watching on Rumble, YouTube, superu.net, and Odyssey.com. We've got 4 platforms. Each one has their pluses and minuses. We're delighted to be on all 4. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate your hard work, especially over the campaign.
Thanks, you guys.
Cheers.